Hello and welcome to Frankly Speaking. Today, on Frankly Speaking, is a man who is the constitutional head conducting elections in this country and on whom the entire responsibility of maintaining the dance of democracy really exists. Chief Election Commissioner Mr. Sunil Arora joining us tonight. Good evening and thank you very much for joining me on Frankly Speaking, Mr. Arora.
Thank you, Navikaji, for calling me.
In your tenure over the last 4 years, we've seen at least 11 elections, including a Lok Sabha election, an election in Bihar, which was right in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and now, of course, 5 states going to the polls. As always, the decibel levels are high, and as always, everybody trains their guns on the Election Commission of India. Generally speaking, Mr. Arora, how do you think this entire rigmarole affects people like you and the entire commission?
As I said in the commission press meeting also, Navikaji, I would like to believe that I was associated with the elections. 11 as EC, 14 as CEC, and the Lok Sabha elections. Because it's not the CEC alone who conducts the elections, it's the entire team. Having said that, you asked me about the kind of bombshells being thrown from all over. I'm very grateful to them. We are used to bouquets and flowers, more bouquets, less flowers, over a period of time. You see, after the voters, it's the political parties and entities who are the most important cornerstone of the democratic edifice. And it is for them to kind of say or impute what they think in their best judgment should be said. Maybe we would view it should not be said, at least in public domain. When they meet us in the election room here, we all have nice, proper meetings. Sometimes when they go out and meet all of you, their decibel levels become different. But having said that, if you could cite any particular issue, I would like to respond to that.
Well, then let's get down to the specifics. And in this election itself, after the announcement of the election dates, in fact, within minutes of your completing your press conference and announcing the election dates, there was immediate criticism that came in from the Trinamool Congress on the 8 phases of polls that have been sought to be put by the Election Commission of India in West Bengal. 8 phases of polls, given the fact that in 2016 there were 6 phases of polls. Of course, the first phase had part A and part B, so technically 7 phases.
Effect 7.
So, any specific reason, and how would you respond to the criticism that's come in from the Trinamool Congress?
There were some political entities who are seeking even more number of phases, and in black and white. But that's not the issue. The commission does tries to do its own homework as meticulously as possible. The officers in charge of West Bengal visited West Bengal at least twice. Commission also spent 2 good work-filled days there. And meanwhile, the situation is always dynamic. You cannot say that 2016 is 11, or for that matter, 2021 is 16. There have been since then reported so many reports, and not anecdotal. We do not believe in anecdotal reports, be it given by this entity, this party, or that party. We try to see the statistical and empirical evidence. For example, in the context of West Bengal or any other state, when it comes to crime and law and order, we believe in the figures of National Crime Record Bureau, NCRB. To the best of my knowledge, in the written report of NCRB 2018, they have said that 2019 report was not submitted by the West Bengal government for reasons best known to them. I have no questions on that. But even in 18 report, which is after 2016 elections, the figures of rise in crime, hooliganism, even murders, etc., have been on the and were on the rise. And therefore, in addition, we also have the limitation of movement of central forces. It can always be said that the central forces movement is a much bigger issue in the Lok Sabha elections than in the election to a group of states. But it must also not be forgotten that since that time, the central forces kind of their requirement in many other sectors in the country has also been very heavy. And you know all that, and we need not specify those areas. So keeping the totality of factors in mind, the views of the political parties, the local holidays, local everything, even despite keeping in, and I would like to tell you that the entire process of 8 phases, by the way, ends in 66 days. Whereas in the last 2 elections, it was 3 elections, it was 70, 74, 77 days. So it cannot be said that we are stressing the things. But yes, we thought 8 phases is a functional necessity this time. We have no choice, and we went ahead with it.
How do you respond when political parties target you by saying that this is what the BJP had wanted and that is why it has been done? The same left parties, the CPIM, which had demanded more phases and a better control of the law and order situation, also targeted the Election Commission. Do you take it in your stride as something that just happens every time? Brickbats will come your way, or do you sometimes get surprised that political parties change their opinion when they meet you separately? And
I would be the last person to make any comment on the political parties. We never even name them as a matter of practice, and I should not start naming them now. Even on that day, as you said, it was said that there was kind of criticism of 8 phases at one end. Certain corners in black and white I saw in the media, electronic media, as well as in the print media, welcomed 8 phases. So I means we as Commission can't take any solace from that. We acted in our kind of best faith, and as I said, not anecdotally, empirically, applying a lot of mind, taking into consideration very detailed and very comprehensive inputs from various quarters, all in black and white, and then took this decision. So those who think it was a kind of decision at the behest of somebody, I would like to request them through this medium that kindly say anything, but do not kind of attribute any kind of motives to the Commission.
Mr. Arora, there is another point, giving empirical information that has been raised. For example, 294 seats in the Bengal Assembly, 234 seats in the Tamil Nadu Assembly. In Tamil Nadu, we see 1 phase of polling. In West Bengal, we see 8 phases of polling. I want to ask you, in the 5 states that are going to poll, are you saying it categorically that law and order is a significant worry in West Bengal more than in any other state?
See, every state had its own problem. In fact, while enumerating the phases, you somehow forgot to enumerate, which I would like to remind you, that in Assam there used to be 2 phases. This time there have been 3 phases. So how would that be attributed to? Number one.
Because Assam has been stated and categorized as a disturbed area.
What I am trying to say is that despite being it has not been categorized as disturbed area on the eve of this election. It was described as disturbed area for quite some time. And AFSPA, etc. had been in force. But this time we thought we need 3 phases there. That also on the basis of similar analysis as was done for West Bengal. Tamil Nadu has its own sensitivities, but a different kind. And those sensitivities are more expenditure related. In fact, in the press conference when we announced the election, one very senior colleague from Tamil Nadu, from the media, he repeatedly tried to ask, why Tamil Nadu? And I told him very politely that, look here, that was the only state where we had two elections rescinded, stroke countermanded, stroke deferred, Vellore and Arkanagar twice. So each state had its own peculiarities. And yes, I won't say we are alarmed over any particular state, but yes, we are keeping it, we want to keep it strictly under watch from law and order point of view.
May I ask you the question of the fact that we are right in the middle of the vaccination phase 2. The COVID vaccinations are being given, and this has been turned into a political issue with many political parties objecting to the fact that the certificate that comes with the vaccination has the picture of the Prime Minister on it. And especially in the poll bound areas, it is virtually like an advertisement for the particular party that the Prime Minister represents, the BJP. Have you taken cognizance of this complaint that's coming?
You see, Navika ji, Prime Minister, as well as Honorable Prime Minister, as well as Honorable CMs, they have a dual role. They are the leaders of the executive, and they are also the leaders of their prominent leaders of their party, even if they are not Adhyaksh in every state, in every situation. So it's a party role and the role of government. But the two cannot be dealing, especially at the time of elections. And there have been many instances in the past that the names of various schemes have been kept in the names of functionaries who are still kind of alive and occupying very sensitive positions. But having said that, this is not a justification for this. We have gone through the papers. This particular photograph thing started sometimes in January, January just now, 21, when the actual vaccination drive started. But we have already told the Health Ministry that even if it is a system-generated thing, even if it is a digital kind of thing, they better find technical solutions and filters within the next 2-3 days in order that there can be a different way of tackling this issue in these 4 states and 1 UT than the rest of the country, at least during the MCC.
So you're saying that in these 4 states and the Union Territory of Puducherry, you have directed the government not to use the Prime Minister's picture in the certificates. Do I understand you correctly?
You never understand people incorrectly.
So the order, this is in consonance with the order that you have earlier given, that on petrol pumps, the pictures of the Prime Minister, Mamata Banerjee, have to be covered up. So the vaccination certificates also will follow the same.
There is no difference between any political leaders of this party, this entity, that entity.
So you're saying that the picture of the Prime Minister on the vaccination slip would be against the Model Code of Conduct?
You are now reading what you want to read in the things. And I have replied what I have replied.
Mr. Arora, I want to ask you, even as we speak about the elections, already noises have begun to come in, like they do every other election, that EVMs are not the best and most dependable way of counting the votes. Earlier we've seen in May, elections of Lok Sabha in May 2019, where VVPAT issue had come up. We went through that entire rigmarole, the whole question and answers and criticism and counters that were given. Once again, it surfaces every election, and it has this time predictably. How do you respond to that?
EVM, unfortunately, has become a kind of perennial whipping boy of various entities. What happens is that they bury it for some time, then they revive it. Bury it, revive it, bury it, revive it. By the way, there is a small presentation prepared by my officers on EVM and VVPATs. This has been circulated to your colleagues in all the press conferences. This is practically available with every single political party entity, at least their functionaries. Now, if you read it, in 2018 itself, Supreme Court had dismissed petition asking for return to ballot papers. Since 2000, EVMs have been used in all elections, 4 Lok Sabha and 122, now including these 5, 127 State Assembly elections. The Technical Expert Committee, which does independent evaluation of the EVMs, was constituted way back. First committee was constituted in 1990. Then another committee was constituted for evaluation of upgraded EVMs in 2005. And this committee, which was constituted in January 90, they had given a report as early as April 90 that use of EVMs should be done unanimously.
31 years later, we are still debating whether they are dependable.
I think the rest of the world would be laughing at us. Who are the people who have been on this second technical committee? Professor D.T. Shahani, Emeritus Professor, IIT Delhi. Professor Rajat Mona, Director, IIT Bhilai, former DG CDAC. Professor Dinesh Sharma, Professor Emeritus, IIT Mumbai. And by the way, Professor Sahni has been a member of the expert committee since December 2005. In fact, I still recall one of these days when once in a while the TC people interact with us, I found them extremely dispirited and kind of, should I say, disheartened that while they were working so hard, pro bono, they are being their work is being, instead of being put on the rigorous test of scientific scrutiny, it's kind of becoming anecdotal attacks. I'll take 1 or 2 more minutes. In 2014, you had the Lok Sabha elections and you had X result. In 4 months later, you had elections to Delhi Assembly and you had a totally 360-degree reverse result. So, was the EVM
faulty
then or in Delhi? And since then, how many state elections have been there? And how many different kind of results? We have been repeatedly saying any machine can malfunction. Even there, the rate of malfunctioning over a period of time through trial and error in the case of BUs and CUs has come to less than 1%. And we always keep 25% reserve. Even in the case of VVPATs, it has never gone beyond 1.78%. There also we keep reserves of 20%. And still, any machine can malfunction. My pen can malfunction. Your pen can malfunction. Our specs can malfunction.
Our phones can malfunction.
Phones can malfunction. A new car can malfunction. Brought from the showroom. EVMs can malfunction once in a while, though even that is very
minimal.
That is almost still very minimal. But they can't be tampered with.
So, Mr. Arora, do you think there are vested interests when this issue is brought up again and again? Or is it a phase in our society that we are going through? We are called the argumentative Indians. We find fault in everything. We find fault in the vaccinations that are being put out, whether their efficacy is proved or not. We question the EVMs. Do you think it's done sometimes by questioning Thomas's just because they want to point fingers?
I'll answer this question in 2 parts. A, you are one of the senior most investigative journalists in the country and very well respected in your field. It's for you and your colleagues to find out. B, that yes, we are a kind of argumentative country, as we should be. Sometimes we become over-argumentative. That can be settled by dialogue, just as we are talking now.
Mr. Arora, let me now come to the question of, you spoke about the fact that apart from West Bengal, Tamil Nadu is a state where there are different kinds of problems, and I suspect you were referring to the use of money power in elections in Tamil Nadu.
You're right.
Freebies, free gifts, cash inducements that are given. Do you think the Election Commission, with all its watchdogs during the MCC, has been able to tackle this entire issue head on? Because post Vellore, post RK Nagar, countermanding and deferring of elections, many people say that even today, before the MCC comes, there are kind of cash inducements which have already gone out to prospective voters. Can this issue ever be tackled head on, given the way that there can't ever be enough machinery to check each and every citizen or voter in a state?
It's unfortunate that some states have got kind of become synonymous with this kind of thing. But what we can try to do is that we have a limited period, MCC. Even during MCC, all departments and agencies, they have to keep on functioning under their extant laws. We don't come into picture to that extent. On any significant issue, they do bring things to our notice. But having said that, we are determined, as we were in Lok Sabha also, by appointing, probably very rarely, it used to be done earlier also, once in a while, we have tried to make it a regular practice. For example, in Tamil Nadu, we have put 2 special expenditure observers over and above the district tier of general police and expenditure observers. And these 2 expenditure observers, they are kind of people with most impeccable reputation for integrity and ruthless execution. Even as we are talking today, some jeweler is being raided in Tamil Nadu. You see, I read only in your papers, in your TV, and day before yesterday also something happened. In fact, yesterday we had a very in-depth interaction with our special expenditure observers and as with other special observers, police general. And we kind of tried to, I was asked in the press conference the other day by one of your colleagues, so MCC when लागू हो जाएगा फिर क्या होगा? And I said, ये बंदा इश्क में रोता है क्या? आगे आगे देखिए होता है क्या? So I think आगे आगे देखिए होता है क्या?
Have you been able to sort out at the commission level the issue of influence of money power in Indian elections and therefore on democracy?
We are working on 2 different lines. Even during COVID, which is still ongoing, we have enhanced the limit for legislatures and for various states by 10%. Having said that, we have appointed a committee under Mr. Harish Kumar, one of the ace investigators who retired as DG Investigation Delhi, to suggest us some long-term reforms, including the curbing of the money power. In fact, we would like to see the end of it, but curbing, minimizing definitely. I think when this report finally comes, maybe another 2-3 months, you will see sweeping reforms. He is already in touch with other various stakeholders, but Commission at that time would be talking to the political parties also, not that we have not been talking to them earlier on various things, including this, but after this very focused report comes, we would be kind of talking to all other political parties also, and then the then Commission would take a call.
So you're saying this is work in progress?
Yes, it is.
Work
in active progress.
Do you think, normal professionals, normal common people, not so-called politicians and netas, as they've been, called in recent times, do not come forward and participate in the election process simply because the biggest factor that keeps them away is the use of money power?
Navika, it has to be taken with a pinch of salt. The matter is, the reality is reverse. the so-called common people, as we call it in our parlance, are very uncommon. They have deep and abiding faith in democracy. They are capable of giving pleasant surprises and nasty shocks whenever they get this opportunity, once in 4 years, 5 years, normally 5 years, sometimes less than 5 years. It is only the upper middle class and above in that sense, and I don't think this is only because of their kind of distaste for money power. In fact, some of them may even be themselves practitioners of it. It also is, it's a strong statement to make, I'm sorry for that, but you will see if you see the constituency-wise breakup, you will find, especially in metropolitan cities, including Delhi and Mumbai, the least voting percentage is from where the uncommon people come from.
You're saying the upper middle class, which
And
crib
above.
in there,
And above.
which crib in their drawing rooms but don't come out to vote.
I have nothing further to say.
Mr. Arora, you spoke about agencies and their extent laws. In this connection, I want to ask you a question. In Kerala, the Chief Minister, Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan, has written a letter to you that there are certain investigations that are being carried out by the Enforcement Directorate, and these are once again linked to possibly the poll, and therefore to put the incumbent government on their back foot, and to say it in plain words, they're actually politically motivated investigations that are being carried out. How do you respond to that?
Navika ji, number one, we got the complaint of Honorable CM Kerala 3-4 days back in the evening in the office by a fax or email around 8:30. To the best of my knowledge, a press release in Kerala to the print and electronic media, they had started playing it up, the text of the complaint, between 6 to 6:30 or 7 o'clock. Whether it is 7 or 6:30, that is not the issue. Next day morning, the text of the complaint came in Delhi papers. Now that is only for them to decide as to how to send confidential complaints. This is the modalities which are unfortunately being followed at various places. We have checked up, as per our tentative details which we have got, is that this particular issue, the investigation had been going on since March 2020. I repeat, March 2020. However, this our information which has come today only, we will further discuss it in commission, and if required, get more supplementary information.
So are you saying that the Election Commission could possibly look at stalling investigation work, because you're saying this started in March 2020 when elections were nowhere on the horizon? Is the commission going to take a view that model code of conduct is there, so therefore no investigations can take place, no raids can take place in a particular state?
Navika ji, commission can never take this view, and this is not the remit of commission also. We cannot, just because this model code is there, which is a consensual document created with the political parties, but we cannot stop the operation of IPC. For example, there is a communal riot, or unfortunately there is somebody's there's a rape case, a murder. Can we say stop investigation? Election is going on.
So the Enforcement Directorate cases are also in
I am not at all competent to comment on the kind of the quality of investigation, etc. It's for the honorable courts to decide. When I say I always mean commission. But at the same time, we've got a kind of interim response. We'll discuss it in the commission. If we need some more details, we'll obtain them. More details. Did I ever say that we'll stall it, we'll stop it, anything that sort? Neither we can, nor we should, nor we shall.
So you're saying the promptness of the government in responding to some reforms is still lacking.
Alkali, you always say, you ask a very good question, I try to answer it, and then you start finding its motives. That's your job, and my job is to tell you that it's for you to kind of comment on it.
Mr. Arora, the question of reforms in the entire election process, the election bonds, the transparency of where money is originating from, the corporate bonds, all of these are issues that the Commission has at different times picked up and looked at in terms of bringing in more transparency in the entire process of elections. Do you think the election bonds, where even the Commission has raised a few red flags, are still in the region of what we call transparency in terms of the origin of where this money is coming from?
After I joined here as EC, at one point of time, Commission filed an affidavit in the Honorable Supreme Court, whereas Commission reiterated their stand by earlier Commission that there should be more transparency. And after that, the matter is still sub judice at the highest court of land, and Commission will do whatever they are directed to do. Secondly, you talked about reforms. Reforms is not the legacy of one commissioner or one set of commissioners or CECs, but they are a continuous process. There are a lot of reforms which have been initiated in the past, and many which has been initiated by the current Commission when I was EC, and now since I have been CEC. My ardent wish, however, is that, for example, this linkage with Aadhaar of the voter card should take place as soon as possible, for which we have been kind of trying. We have had meetings with the Law Secretary, others, Secretary Law and Justice, and I hope it comes out soon. And there are other commissions, there are other reforms also in the pipeline. But I have the satisfaction of reporting to you that at least we have managed to, very sincerely tried and managed to successfully create far more sensitivity in the kind of way our officials look at this issue of treating our persons with disability, citizens with disability, and people above 80 in a different manner altogether. And we have been able to kind of even create the system of postal ballots for them in case they want. It's purely optional. It's not that they will vote only by postal ballot. And I am glad to report to you also that this recommendation of ours was accepted by the concerned ministry also, because it involved some amendment in the existing law within maybe less than a month. Just as I would like to place on record that some of these reforms which have been sent to the ministry can be expedited further.
So you're saying the promptness of the government in responding to some reforms is still lacking?
Alkali, you always say, you ask a very good question, I try to answer it, and then you start finding its motives. That's your job, and my job is to tell you that it's for you to kind of comment on it.
Mr. Arora, I also want to ask you, most political parties, in fact all political parties, are supposed to declare their incomes, the money generated with the Election Commission. Many a times we see that they miss their deadlines, sometimes they take time in submitting these documents, and therefore I want to ask you, is the Election Commission a body that has enough teeth to take care of some of these misdemeanors, if you can call it that, or pressures on political parties in letter and spirit to conform to the rules that exist and have been given out by the Election Commission?
This commission took a, I would not call it historic, but a different decision. Till now the accepted wisdom was that after the elections are over, if X defeated candidate or any other person sends a similar complaint against a candidate about some false declaration of affidavit, concealment of wealth, all these things, he or she should seek recourse under the law of the land. This particular papers were called for, and Commission took a particular decision that no, the intent of the earlier commissions was also not this, but we have started sending it straight to the regulatory agencies, to the enforcement agencies. This is one major departure.
As in the case of some political complaints, Uddhav Thackeray, Aditya Thackeray, Supriya Sule, some of these complaints which had recently come.
You always know the names better than we do. So, I'll not name people. Secondly, this committee of Shri Harish Kumar, it's a very wide-ranging remit. And in our interactions with him, and initial interactions with him, Commission has made it clear that we would like to have some very far-ranging recommendations in this regard also, besides whatever other recommendations he may be giving.
Mr. Arora, may I also ask you how difficult was it to conduct elections in Bihar at a time when the pandemic was in full swing? Was the Commission absolutely confident that in such a rare situation of a pandemic of the sort that we saw globally, you would be able to conduct elections in the manner that you finally did?
I am repeating it, has been said more than once, that our officers did a lot of background work. We started this exercise by doing test elections, not test elections, elections in the Rajya Sabha and some state councils. The electorate was very limited, but that kind of made us test waters. And then we took the plunge for Bihar. It was, as I said when I announced it, it was a leap of faith for us and not a leap in the fire. But having said that, the leap of faith was preceded by meticulous work. I must also place on record through your medium the kind of the way the Bihar administration rose from the district magistrates. They must be taking work from their colleagues in turn to everybody. It was awe-inspiring. And just as this example of one or two odd black sheep carrying cash and becoming couriers of cash, etc. In Bihar, this election was, when we took the meetings, etc., we found that two district magistrates, I still remember some names, maybe there are one or two more, I'm sorry if I forgot their names, DM Patna and DM Kaimur, they had actually had COVID and they have resumed their duties. One lady commissioner was handling two commissionerates despite having had COVID. One IGP of zonal IGP, which means range IGP, concerned with field duties, concerned with interaction, has passed away due to COVID and other comorbidities. We requested his wife and daughter to kindly join us on National Voters' Day, and Honorable President gave them posthumous award for the late IG. As a matter of fact, I have written a second letter yesterday on behalf of Commission, of course, to Honorable Chief Minister of Bihar for providing a job to his daughter commensurate to her qualifications. So Bihar was that way. The Health Secretary Bihar, he gave us such a meticulous presentation that, Navika ji, I must tell you that when these 5 elections were decided, we managed to arrange the CEO of Bihar, who was here, who is now, by the way, here on a temporary duty to help us in these elections, Srinivasan, and this Health Secretary, Pratyay Amrit, they all rose up to the occasion. So we made them now interact with their counterparts in all these 4 states and UT, so that some kind of, we can't say it's a template, but we thought we could learn from
the Bihar experience.
Bihar experience in the sense we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Well said, Mr. Arora. Your last announcement of the 4 states and 1 union territories elections was possibly your last, with your tenure coming to an end. How do you see the last 4 years of your tenure? Can you give us one very good experience and one very tense experience? I'm sure you've had many of both.
You'll have to have a separate interview because I cannot cite one good experience and one terrible experience. But yes, I'll try. You see, as a citizen, one always had a respect for Election Commission. But ever since these 4 years I've been here, I think it's one of the biggest opportunities God can give to anybody, because you become part of a kind of a process and an institution which has very solid roots. And whereas I used to respect it, now I almost regard it. I now respect and revere this institution. All the people here, many days during elections, you won't find, it will not be surprising if you find somebody coming to your house at 12 o'clock to get some urgent files cleared. And the same person will then go back, deposit the file, issue the orders, and then go for home. And so many examples. So election is not the aggregate of the effort of just one CEC and 2 commissioners, although their efforts are also very important, being at the apex of this body. But it's a kind of aggregate of the efforts of everybody, starting from the block level officer, the BDO, the SDO, the Tehsildar, right up to the top. And one of the best experiences has been this, with some success, about this persons with disability and persons above 80, and also able to induce more and more women to vote. Bihar, by the way, the women voter turnover was very high. And one, I won't say terrible, but very tense experience was that when we had to do the counting on 23rd May, we had a delegation of honorable political parties, almost 60 to 70 people from all political parties. We kind of reconfigured.
Lok Sabha elections.
That's right. We reconfigured the room so that we could have a quadrangle table and have a meeting with them. We had kept a video conference with our CEOs for the last minute. They sought some changes in the SOP. And irrespective of the merits, any change in SOP at that point of time, and to get it internalized from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, because in J&K also parliament elections are on, would have been almost suicidal to the entire process, but we managed.
You managed to convince the political parties, or you managed to carry out the process?
A bit of combination of both. I would believe that. I don't know what they believe.
Well, Mr. Arora, thank you very much for speaking frankly with us. Of course, a job like yours many a times doesn't get you as many bouquets possibly as you may expect or deserve. The fact that you talk about bringing out women voters, well, the crown is always given to the political parties that so-and-so leader is so popular, that's why the women came out. Possibly Election Commission doesn't always get what it's due to get in terms of the bouquets. But thank you very much for joining us on Frankly Speaking, and we wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you very much, Navika ji. I hope that people like you and others, media has been our biggest ally in a manner of speaking. Though so many bouquets, big bets came from media regularly, including from your channel also. But I think you should all try and see the positive side of the Commission also. Thank you.
Thank you very much.